because oftentimes the belief system that we have around money is not a belief system that we consciously chose to have. This is the Dog Sitter's House podcast. Hello, furry dog lovers. Welcome back to the Dog Sitter's House podcast. This is your host, April, and I appreciate you being here. Happy New Year. It is a new year. Holy moly. Can you believe it? I can't. And it's been a crazy week already, the first week of the new year, and it's not over yet, but just finished shoveling about 100 yards of my driveway and probably about 65 yards, or I'm sorry, feet, 100 feet and 65 feet of my neighbor's driveway. And I bet you by the time I finish recording this, it's going to need another round of shoveling because we have nothing but snow and possibly ice overnight for the next 2 days. So yay for us. It's really pretty though. And staying on top of it's good. Now I'm not a saint, by the way, because I shoveled my neighbor's driveway. Trust me. It's probably about the second or third time I've done it in the 10 years that I've lived here compared to the, I don't know, probably 100 times that they've done it for me. Because they're retired and they always get out there before I finish work and get it taken care of. So God bless them. So here it was a Sunday and I thought, I'm going to beat them to it just for once. And no sooner I finished, she's over here with a bowl of homemade hot turkey and rice soup, and then she picks up her shovel and starts shoveling my driveway again. So even with that, it'll probably still need another round when I'm done with this. So I apologize. This podcast episode is probably going to be a couple of days late by the time this gets posted. You may have noticed by now. If so, I had somebody out sick this week. I was a little short-staffed, and the day that I planned on recording this is when she was out sick. So, things happen in our business, and things that we can't control sometimes, right? And you just have to go with the flow of it. Kind of noticed I was getting a little stressed out about it, and then I was like, you know what? No, it's not the end of the world. I'm not going to stress myself out for this. And, I just have to trust that everything's working in the timeline it's supposed to, and it's meant to. And I hope that, by sharing that with you, that's a reminder for you as well. So, with that said, I did not get to fully hash out what I was going to discuss with you today. I know what I'm going to discuss with you today, but I didn't really organize it too much in my head. So hopefully this episode isn't off the cuff, kind of down a bunch of tangents and, not making any sense, but I'll try and stick to the point as much as possible. But I do have a few thoughts in mind that I wanted to share with you because it's the new year, and at this time of year, a lot of people are looking at their pricing. You might be looking at increasing your pricing for your doggy boarding and daycare services and whatnot. And, to that I say, yay, hey, go for it. And a lot of people, when they start looking or thinking about increasing their pricing, I've noticed, and I've done it before in my past too, so don't get me wrong, but it's real easy to go into this kind of hyper mode about it, right? A little anxiety about it because the first thought that always comes to mind is, am I going to lose all my customers? Are my customers going to be upset and go find somebody else? And yeah, that's always a possibility. So of course, that's always going to be a thought in the back of your mind. And I see a lot of people kind of talking about like, oh, what should I raise it as? And what if I just raise it, $3? What if I just raise it, $2? How much notice do I give them? Do I raise it incrementally, like $1 one month and $1 the next month? There's just a lot of stress and pressure that we put on ourselves when raising our pricing, because the ultimate fear is in the back of our mind of losing everybody, right? Of losing business, of having to close up shop because we can't sustain the business any longer because we raised our prices. And I get it. It's real. It's a real fear. It's valid. But let's just recognize that that's all it is. It's just that. It's a fear. It's a fear. And you know what they say about fear? You know, Dave Ramsey always said this. I don't know where he got it from, if he got it from somebody else, but it always helped me. And that's, fear just means false expectations appearing real. And that's really the truth of the matter, because if you think about it, how many times have you been afraid of something happening? And then you look back and you realize, maybe 1% of the things you're afraid of actually have happened, if at all, right? So that's kind of proof and a way to get perspective in your mind that that's really truly 99.9% of fears are just false expectations appearing real. And when you kind of think of things like that, it gives you a little bit more courage, more confidence to walk forward through that fear, to face that fear, to plunge through it so that you can get to the other side of it and realize you can breathe, that you're okay. So, first of all, when it comes to raising your prices, the thing that I notice a lot of you don't, I mean, maybe you do, but a lot of people I've spoken to and helped, and myself in the past, I couldn't have done this without my coaches helping me through this to begin with. So I'm just passing the torch on, right? Is that we really first need to address our relationship with money. What is your relationship with money? What does money mean to you? What does making money mean to you? What does asking for the sale mean to you? What do you do when you go into discussing prices with somebody? Do you tense up? Do you feel this fear bubble up inside of you and maybe put a frog in your throat and make it hard to speak with confidence about your pricing? It really comes down to, what is your relationship with money? And that kind of, extends to, what is your relationship to your pricing? What does your pricing mean? Does it mean something? Does it have to mean something? What does it mean? What does it mean about you? What does it mean about your business? What does it mean about your customers? These are all, I can't answer these questions for you. These are all questions that I would encourage you to ask yourself. Because oftentimes the belief system that we have around money is not a belief system that we consciously chose to have. It's a belief system that we have picked up from others around us as we were raised, as we grew up, right? And even as an adult, possibly. So let's go back to, what is your earliest memory of money, and a thought or an opinion about money? What is your earliest thought? One that is super common, and I know that I grew up with, is being told constantly that money doesn't grow on trees, right? And when you're 4, 3, 5, 2, 7, 8, 9, whatever, and you're being told that over and over every time you want something, that's basically drilling into your belief system that money is scarce. And when we grow up and we go throughout life with a relationship of believing money is scarce, how beneficial is that to actually attracting money in abundance, right? It's really not that very very helpful. If you think about the law of attraction alone, right? You're not vibrating at a frequency that attracts abundance, you're attracting scarcity. And it's not just this woo-woo attraction frequency thing that a lot of people are like, that is like way over my head and that's crazy woo-woo talk, April. It's also when and it's even probably more so that when we believe something deep down and we don't even realize we believe it, right? We don't even think twice about that belief. Money doesn't grow on trees. We don't even think, like, nobody ever taught me that that's a scarcity mindset when I was younger, when I was struggling to pay the bills and working 80 hours a week and still had to charge my credit card just for gas to get to work, even though I pinched pennies like you wouldn't believe and budgeted every single month and sacrificed a whole lot of wants because I was trying to be responsible with my money. And nobody told me that I had this belief system that was showing up and affecting me. And really what it was is because I believed that money is scarce. I behaved in ways that continuously perpetuated money being scarce in my life. And if I didn't behave in ways that continuously perpetuated money being scarce in my life, then I, in the very least, and chances are you do this too, in at least some area of your life, if not with money, but in my experience, we all have belief systems around money that aren't always serving us the best way. So chances are this could help you too. And maybe it's not around scarcity, but something else. But again, I digress. So if I am believing that money is scarce, then what am I not doing? Am I not opening my mind up to opportunities to earn more money, to obtain more money, to attract more money, to invest for more? If you believe money is scarce, then you're not going to be telling your mind to look out for opportunities. You're not going to be telling your mind that it's even possible that there's other opportunities out there to make money, right? And just by doing that, you just go on your merry way and just never even realize that you don't know what you don't know. And I did that for many, 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 many years. But now I believe money is abundant. And I see money as a circulation. When I am low on funds, when money is tight for me, I don't flip out anymore. Like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I'm going to lose my house. I'm not going to be able to pay the bills. I'm going to lose my car insurance. I won't be able to pay that. Which I used to do. I used to stress about money all the time in my 20s when I was living in Los Angeles and literally working 75, 80 hours a week and still barely making it. And, now when I have a tight month or something, because there were a lot of expenses or I took on less bookings or combination of both, then I just think, that's because I had to circulate that money because someone else in the world needed it, but more than I did this month. Someone else needed that more than I did. It was a blessing for someone else. And that's going to come back to me. I was kind of tight on money over December, actually, because I was traveling. I was spending a lot of extra money. I just had a lot of extra expenses on top of Christmas, right? But I still felt the need a couple of times while I was meeting a friend or something out for Christmas and while I was traveling to generously tip my Uber driver and my waitresses, because I truly believe that money is just a means, a circulation that will come back around. And not only that, but one of the best new ways of looking at money is it's really what's in the Bible that Dave Ramsey taught me. It's when you close your hand, when you make a fist with your hand to hold on to your money, nothing else can come into it. But when you open your hand to hand off money, then it's open to receive at the same time. And you might not receive that money immediately in return, but chances are it's going to come back to you just when you need it the most. And ever since I've been operating from this viewpoint about money, it has always been there when I needed it. Always. And in ways that you just don't even expect. You get like a refund from your insurance, a refund check in the mail. You didn't even realize you overpaid. Or all of a sudden you remember like, oh yeah, you get an email like, oh yeah, I have all these points and like I have $500 cash on my credit card. I could use that this month, right? It's just amazing how things pop up when you really need it. Maybe you even find $20 walking down the street, you know? I just actually found $100 bill in my dream the other night. I thought that was a pretty good omen. I was walking down the street and found a crisp $100 bill. There was no fentanyl on it or anything. I made sure before I picked it up. So to bring this back around, ask yourself, where do you find yourself going in your head when you start thinking about money, when you start thinking about raising your prices, when you start talking about your pricing with somebody? Do you notice that you get tense? Do you notice that you have thoughts in your head that pop up like, oh gosh, what if they don't buy because of my pricing? Or, what if I'm too expensive? Or what if I don't get people inquiring about my services because I'm more expensive than other sitters in the area? Do you have these thoughts popping up? And if so, I would challenge you to write them down. And sorry, my dogs are below me scratching at the carpet. I would challenge you to write down in one column on the left, like get a piece of paper and make 2 columns. And on the left side, write down what thoughts pop up for you when it comes to money. What thoughts pop up for you when it comes to talking about your pricing or even setting your pricing or raising your pricing, right? First, just completely do a brain dump and write all those thoughts down that come to you, that are common to you. And you can also write down all the different sayings from your past that were ingrained in your brain by your parents or your grandparents or whomever. Like mine, like, money doesn't grow on trees, April, right? Or even just as simple as, no, we can't afford that. Maybe that was true. Maybe we really couldn't afford that at the time, but that is something we take on, and maybe for the rest of our lives, in the background of our brain, we are saying, I can't afford that. I can't afford that. And by constantly saying that to ourselves, we're constantly making sure we can't afford it, right? Because we're not looking at how we could, we're looking only at how we can't. And once you write down all of these sayings, thoughts, beliefs that go through your head when it comes to money, then go back through them, and to the right of each one, on the right column, write out a new belief that you could believe now, right? Don't be like writing something that is completely foreign and something you just think is impossible still. Write out something that is more believable, that is more positive, that is more abundant, that is serving you better to believe versus the belief on the left. And if you just take that time to really kind of sit down and identify this, it's going to help your brain to be aware of these repeat patterns and thoughts and belief systems that are holding you back often when you don't even realize they were holding you back. It's going to help to make them more aware, make you more aware of them as you go through life. And the more aware you become of them, the more you can replace them with the new and improved belief that you write down on the right column. And eventually, repetition will do its job, and you will start to live from that belief instead of the old beliefs that aren't serving you. So I hope that gives you some, I don't know, some tangible way to really work through your relationship with money, to first identify what areas or what beliefs you have that aren't serving you when it comes to money, and then find a way to increase the belief, or improve the belief so that it serves you better moving forward. Okay. So let me say, just for example, just in case somebody's I've got you kind of lost, because I know, again, I'm kind of scatterbrained today, is so for my example, money doesn't grow on trees. I could write that down. And then on the right column next to that, I could improve that belief to money is all around me. I just have to look for it, right? Or be aware of it. Or it could simply just be money is all around me, or money is always circulating, right? And that right there, I can believe. We know that money is always circulating. There's no doubt about that. And so I can believe that. And that's an easy one for me to believe. And it is so much better for me to believe that than it is to believe that money doesn't grow on trees, that money is scarce. Okay. So once you do that, then let's dive into, the real question everybody has, my pricing. How do I figure out my pricing, or how do I raise my prices without losing all my customers? Okay. So first of all, right there is the wrong question to be asking, right? You do not ask, what price are my customers going to be willing to pay? Because I've said it before, I'll say it again, your customers will pay as little as they possibly can every time. So asking yourself that question of, well, what will my customers pay, is the wrong question. It is the wrong way to approach your pricing. Okay. The most important first step in approaching your pricing is knowing your numbers, knowing your expenses, your labor costs, if you have any, your taxes, and, the income that you need. You need to know what is your goal income, right? And be greedy here. Be greedy, shoot for the stars. Again, if you're not shooting for the stars and you feel like you're being greedy, then that's a belief. That is a negative belief around money. Because what if you could change that belief from being greedy to, the more money I have, the more resources I have, the more I can serve other people, right? If you're just hoarding that money and keeping it for yourself and not sharing it with the world and letting it circulate into the world naturally so that it serves other people when they need it most, then yeah, you might be a little greedy. But I bet, being a dog sitter, you have a kind, loving, and giving heart. And therefore, when you earn money, you're going to turn that money back around and do something good with it, right? You're going to do what you need to do to take care of yourself, to live a comfortable life, secure your future, I hope. Yeah, as you should. You earn it. You're exchanging value for that. But you're also going to take any excess and you're going to use it for good. Maybe you're going to foster dogs that need a home. Maybe you're going to rescue dogs. Maybe you're going to put it back into your business and serve your visitors even more in some elaborate way. Maybe you're going to build a building on your property to give them better shelter or resources or um, um, agility courses or something, to entertain them, something to improve their experience when they're with you. So going back to when you go to set up your pricing, you need to know your numbers. Okay, once you know what the income is you need to have after expenses, after taxes, after labor, then you really need to figure out how many dogs can I board per day or total per month? How many dogs can I have per daycare day? And really work out those numbers, because let me tell you, the biggest mistake I ever made was underpricing myself. And then I had to have way more dogs here than I could emotionally, mentally, physically handle on a long-term basis. And I look back sometimes and I'm like, I don't even know how I did that. I really don't know how I made it through the way I made it through. Luckily, I've always been a person with sheer determination, just running through my veins. It's just in my blood. It's like, some people are blood zero, blood O, blood type O, blood type A, B, whatever. I'm blood type determination. Okay. And that's what got me through many days. And I don't wish that on anybody. I really don't. It really wasn't. It's not something I should have gone through. It's not something I needed to go through. Other than maybe I went through it so that I can help you not to go through it. But really what it comes down to is I did not price my services in a way that made it sustainable for me financially without killing myself in the meantime. And a lot of that was probably because I was doing that mistake in the first place of like, well, I can't raise my prices too high because then I'll lose all my business. I had this fear, right? And I was thinking, how much are they willing to pay, right? And that are, like I said, the two wrong ways to approach it. So let's really break this down. When you set your pricing, what is a price? A price for your services it's just an energetic exchange of value, right? Like the customer had to expend energy to earn that money. They had to put value in the world to earn that money. And then you have to put value into their world to earn their money, right? And really, that's all it is. Now, who determines the value of your service? Well, ultimately, each customer does, but that could be different for every single customer, right? You have customers who are, willing to pay $20,000 for a brand new vehicle. And then you might have customers out there willing to pay $100,000 for a new vehicle. The value is in the eyes of the beholder, and everyone is different. Everything is subjective when it comes to that. The real question is, once you set your price, then you know what type of customer you need to look for. Someone that is going to value your services at the same price that you have valued it at. Those are the customers you have to find, right? That's the challenge when it comes down to you set your pricing. Now that's the next step. That's really all it is now you just have to figure out where to find those people. Where are they? Go out and find them. It's really fascinating because think about it. Have you ever been watching, TV and there's, commercials and everything, and if you think back on it and you realize, have you ever in your life seen a commercial for a Lamborghini on TV? Ever? Because I don't know about you. I mean, I stopped watching TV like 10 years ago, but I really don't recall ever seeing a commercial for a Lamborghini or, a Maserati or, any of those crazy, super fancy cars, right? I don't see them. You just don't see them. And why is that? That's because they know their customers aren't watching TV. They know their customers that can afford their cars do not spend their time watching TV. They know their time is way more valuable than watching TV. So they don't watch it. So why would a Lamborghini maker advertise their vehicle on a television set? It doesn't make sense. They're not there. Their customers are not there, right? Now, they might advertise their Lamborghini services in magazines or billboards around like 5-star hotels in, Paris or New York or like that might be a place where they go, but that's the key. When you set your pricing, then you go, okay, now this is the customer I'm looking for. The customer who sees the value in my service to equal XYZ like I do. Now, with that said, let's go to the next step. Is the value that you are offering higher than the cost that you are charging? Is it? Or are you just charging based on what you want, what you need, or competition, right? Sometimes you might be giving way more value than the competition is, but you're still charging the same pricing as the competition. Like you're way undercutting yourself. You're doing, 3 times the work, 3 times the value, and you're taking, twice as little money. It's just, the math doesn't math there, people, right? So really think about it. It goes both ways there. Do you serve, do you give more value than what you are charging? But within reason, right? Not to the point where you're giving everything away for free practically. Okay. So look at it as it's a value exchange. And once you see this as an exchange of value, you can say, okay, what can I do to make this price a no-brainer? What kind of value can I offer that maybe doesn't take a whole lot of extra from me or my team that makes this pricing that I need to bring in to make things sustainable financially, mentally, emotionally, physically, everything, to make it sustainable for the long haul. And at the same time, make it a no-brainer to my customers because the value is that damn good, right? So these are just kind of, I don't know, things I wanted to discuss, and like it kind of just keeps coming up in my head because I keep getting this pricing question popping up over and over again. And people really are focused on more of the what are the customer willing to pay? What are my customers willing to pay? Or how high can I raise it without losing customers? Instead of really looking at it is an exchange for value, and what is the value I'm offering? And how can I 2x that value and then make my prices a no-brainer because they're getting double the amount of value for the price that they're getting it at. And stop worrying about your competition. A big one that comes up for a lot of people, and chances are you've thought of this possibly, I don't know, is when you set your prices and they're a lot higher than your competition, you might gawk at that in fear, like, oh my gosh, nobody's going to pick me because my prices are so much higher. Well, have you ever thought that some people look at that as it actually says that your service is better, right? How many people do you know out there have a belief system around money that says you get what you pay for, right? I mean, that's a pretty common saying, isn't it? You get what you pay for. And so think about those people. Those people are going to see your pricing and go, oh, look at that. This is like the private country club down the street. Whereas her competition is half her price. That's like, it's kind of like the YMCA, right? Like, would you like to take your dog to the local YMCA center, or would you like to take your dog to the private exclusive country club sitter? Where they get the valet parking, right? Because your price is also part of your marketing. It says how damn good you are. It really shouts that out at the rooftop. And even customers who I've had meet and greets and whatnot, and then I send them my pricing and they're like, this is too expensive for me. Okay, either I did not do a good enough job of showing them the value, which I don't even have time to go into in this podcast episode today. And that's something I teach my clients in our one-on-one coaching or in the courses I plan to do in the future. It really comes down to maybe I didn't show them the value that they're getting well enough in order to shift their perspective into believing that this value is worth my price. But number two, was it the right customer? Was it the right customer who values quality over quantity? Do they value the service to be a higher quality premier service? Do they believe their dog deserves the best no matter what the cost is, as long as it's the best? Or are they just looking for a cheap place to take their dog while they go off on a 5-star vacation? Do they think their dog deserves a 5-star vacation while they're getting their 5-star vacation? And I've actually had a sitter before. This is a little tangent probably, but this reminds me of somebody I've helped in the past. I won't say her name. I don't want to throw her under the bus, but this was a very valid, thing that I think a lot of sitters go through, because we are usually such compassionate, loving, giving, empathetic people. Is she was giving her customer who had 2 dogs a really, really deep discount. If I remember correctly, she was only charging, I think, like $5 or $10 extra for the second dog. And I was like, what are you doing? First of all, you can't afford to, like, what if you have 3 households under your roof at once and every single household has 2 dogs? Then you are losing 90% of your income off of 3 dogs at once. Like, nobody can sustain that. Nobody can afford that, right? And her reasoning, I was really shocked by this one. This one kind of threw me because I never saw it that way. And somehow she came along to believing this and seeing it this way. And this was her relationship with money, right? And with customers, or her fear around it. And she was like, well, my customer can't, afford to send her dog to me and pay the full price or almost the full price. I mean, yeah, take $5 or whatever off per dog, right? If they have multiple dogs. But she was like, my customer can't afford to pay the full price for both dogs. And I'm going, but she can afford to go on vacation. That's like that's like buying your customer their like they're going on a cruise and you're buying them their new cruise, outfits for the cruise, their whole wardrobe for the cruise because they can't afford to go on the cruise. Why would you do that? Like you're it's not your job to pay for her outfits, and it's not your job to pay for the care of her dogs while she's on vacation. It is her job. She took on owning and caring for two dogs in her life. It is her responsibility now to make sure that they are cared for when she wants to take a vacation. That is not your responsibility. You are not a charity shelter, right? You are a dog sitter. You have to earn a living. If you don't earn a living, you're not going to be there for other dogs. Okay. So let's keep that into perspective. I was like blown away in my head. Like, wow, I never, ever once considered somebody who has I see how she does now. I see how she saw that now, but I was really in shock at that day. Like, wow, like that is really, really kind of you to basically take on the cost of her second job, even though it's not, or I'm sorry, the cost of her second dog, even though it's not your dog. And that was her choice to have two dogs. Okay. So hopefully that kind of relays some of my points and how our perspectives, how our belief system can really get in the way when it comes to setting up our pricing. Okay. Let's see. One other tip before I go is when it comes to talking pricing, like I said, first of all, make sure you 2x the value so that it's a no brainer. But here's the other thing that I've noticed a lot of my clients and dog sitters do. When you start talking about pricing, you go into this, well, it's $50 a night because it costs me money, like if they potty in the house, or like I have to pay for cleaning supplies, or you know like, you go into this like meek little like, I'm scared to ask and I'm not really confident and I'm just really insecure about asking for money and I feel so bad asking you for money. I feel so uncomfortable and awkward. Oh my God. That's my insecure voice. What do you think about that? But really, that's what it comes down to is when you wreak insecurity when it comes to talking about your pricing, all you are doing in a non-verbal way is telling the customer that you don't believe in the value that you're serving, that your prices don't reflect the value that you're giving to their dog and them when they leave their dog with you. And all it does is say to that customer, should I question this person? Should I question whether or not this person is doing what they say they're doing? Now, they might not cognitively, consciously think about that, but I can promise you it is an underlying subconscious energetic communication that's going on in their mind that makes up part of their decision of whether they're going to go with you or not. Not only that, like how many times do you want to hand your money over to somebody who's not confidently asking for it, right? You give your money to people who are confident when they ask you for it, don't you? Right? You don't, you don't go to a car lot and haggle for a good price and end up paying more than you should for a vehicle to somebody who's like, well, kicking the tire, like, I mean, if you can, if you'll pay this, I know it's kind of expensive, but if I mean, if you could, that would be great. I mean, the price is this because, we have expenses and, no. You end up paying over what you should be paying, or in the very least, right about what you should be paying because you're buying it from somebody, a salesman who is confident, who is selling you that car with confidence, right? So think about all of those things. I know I kind of just threw a lot on you, didn't I? What time is it? Oh my goodness, I've been talking for a lot longer than I expected I would about this. So I guess that's a good time to wrap it up. Let's kind of go through some of the main points I said today to make sure I wrap all of this up in a pretty little bow for you to take with you and really chew on it, sit down, think about it, write out the exercises, and get some value from this episode because that is my true intention here. So, first of all, like I said, write down 2 columns and just sit there and brain dump all of the thoughts and beliefs and worries and concerns and patterns, what you name it, that pop up when it comes to money, when it comes to when you do your bills, when you are asking for money, when you are raising your prices. What sayings do you say to your children? What sayings did your parents say to you growing up? All that jazz. Write all that down. In the right column, write something that is a better serving belief, something that will serve you better to have that new belief and to replace it with. This will help you become aware of when you're getting in your own way and you don't even know it. Secondly, see pricing as an exchange for value. See that it is just a subjective price that everyone places their own opinion on, and you cannot ever possibly please everybody when it comes to that. So set your pricing based on the value you offer and 2x the value that you offer. And oh yeah, before that, figure out what income you need to have. Figure out how many dogs you can have there, both legally and mentally and emotionally on a regular basis, that allows you time to prioritize what's important to you in your life besides just what you do for a living, besides just your business, right? And making sure that you get that recharge time. So figure out what that number is first. You really need to sit down and figure all that out. I have an amazing calculator tool that's plug and play, and it really helps you kind of figure that stuff out. But that is something that is extremely has a learning curve to figuring out how to use it, and it's something I teach my customers, my clients. So for yourself, do the best you can, figure that out, and then set your prices accordingly, and then 2x the value of your price to make it a no-brainer. And lastly, find the customers that are going to see the value in your service and who prefer premium, prefer private country club over the local YMCA for their dogs, right? The customers who value quality over quantity. Find those customers. Figure out where they're hanging out at. Figure out where they're going, who they talk to, and get in front of them when marketing your services so that you can earn what you deserve and bring in enough money so that you can continue serving your community and the ones you love in the best way you know how. And I think that about sums it up. So if you have any questions, please leave messages, DM me, put comments on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. Or really more importantly, because I can't get on them all. I don't have iPhone. I can't even get on to iTunes, I don't think. More importantly, if you really want to get a hold of me and you have questions for me, go to my Instagram channel, which I believe is Design Your Dog Sitting House. It's either Design Your Dog Sitting House or Design Your Dog Sitter House. I think TikTok was where it has to be design your dog sitter house, because that one required less characters. So you can find me on either one though, and you can DM me there. And also, and on Facebook, Design Your Dog Sitting House is on Facebook, and you can DM me there. And the more questions you send me, the more I know what I can talk about on this episode of this podcast to help serve you better, to help elevate you, and to help save you from the hassles and the headaches that I went through so that you don't have to. Thanks again for listening. Happy New Year. And until next time, happy tales to you.